I became a doctor to help people heal. Now I'm using the same science and medicine to take on true crime. This is 12-year-old Michella Welch. She was found murdered in a park close to her home 32 years ago. Her family has never been able to find answers until now. New science has finally cracked this decades-old case using genealogy and cutting-edge DNA technology to create her suspected killer's face. These new advances in science are leaving killers with nowhere to hide. 12-year-old Michella Welch went missing in August 1986 on a visit to Puget Park in Tacoma, Washington with her sisters. Police later found her body in an isolated area of the park. She had been raped and murdered. For more than 30 years, Michella's case went unsolved with no clear suspects. But new scientific breakthroughs and the DNA detective, Cece Moore, changed everything.
Michella's family said Tacoma police called them with the news yesterday. They tracked the killer down through DNA.
In 2016, Tacoma police hired Cece to help crack this case using genetic genealogy. Law enforcement developed the DNA profile of the suspect from crime scene evidence. Cece then used genealogy to build a family tree, narrowing it down to 2 suspects. With this information, police were finally able to make an arrest. And this isn't the only case. Cece has been using her unique, self-taught genealogy skills in conjunction with Parabon's technology to crack a number of decades-old crimes.
Investigators tell us a simple paper cup helped lead to his capture.
They certainly created the bridge that gave us the suspect, that gave us what took place next.
And that led us to really only one person who could carry this mix of DNA.
So how does it work? Parabon software provides law enforcement with physical traits of a potential suspect using brand new technology called phenotyping. With DNA from an unknown suspect, the kind left at a crime scene in blood splatter under a victim's fingernails or on a cigarette butt, scientists can now predict what the perpetrator looked like and create a drawing similar to a police sketch, helping bring criminals to justice and leaving perpetrators with nowhere to hide. Joining me now is the DNA detective herself, Cece Moore. And you deserve that applause because what you've done is remarkable. So let's first get into Michella's case. What was so personal to you about this case?
I had followed this case for a long time. I've been interested in cold cases well before I started working on them. And my family is from Washington. My parents actually met at University of Washington. So I feel a special connection to that area. So this case was really personal.
So your work directly contributed to the arrest of Gary Hartman. This is the man who was Michella's suspected killer. So I want to understand the workings of a detective's mind, right? So how do you actually put the pieces together? How did you narrow down who the potential suspects are? What are the tools that are most valuable?
Well, I work with a company named Parabon, and they're experts in degraded DNA. So I need someone that can analyze that crime scene DNA for me and get it in a file. Once it's in a file, it's uploaded to a website named GEDmatch. And there it's compared to 1 million other people that are participating in that website. And based on that, I get a list of people who share DNA with that unknown subject. And I go from there. I'm using genealogy skills, forensic skills, lots of research, many different types of resources like social media, newspaper archives, genealogical records.
I'm going to share something with the audience here, because I told you previously how genetic testing led to the arrest of the suspected Golden State Killer, Joseph DeAngelo. It's all in the news now. Think about this. Cece mentioned there's 1 million names in this genetic database that you have to use to find your leads. There are 20 million of us who have taken at-home DNA tests. 20 times more. It's a big deal. So if everybody watching right now uploaded their profiles to this free site, gedmatch.com, then genealogy experts like Cece could do incredible things with that.
Yes.
Much more rapidly. So I'm going to put very specific instructions on my website so you can take action now. So I don't care if you're on Ancestry.com or 23andMe, doesn't matter. Get that information that you collected by spitting in a tube, share it with this GEDmatch.com site, and I think we can make a big difference. You're all going to be deputies. You're all going to be out there helping Cece do her work. All right, let's go back to Michella's case. So what do we know about Gary Hartman, this fellow that, the guy who's arrested for Michella's murder?
Well, he was working as a nurse in a psychiatric hospital, which was interesting, in service like
You've
that.
got to be kidding me.
No, and...
In a psychiatric hospital, he's a nurse. The most
Right.
compassionate people out there.
Yeah, it really surprised me. That wasn't what I was expecting to find. He's married to a psychologist. They adopted 2 children.
He's married to a psychologist?
Yes, surprisingly so. I was, again, very surprised when I found that. Also, he had a divorce earlier, so I found a divorce record that allowed me to discover that he had a child that was about the age of Michella at the time of the murder. And so I thought that was really interesting, too.
Yeah. He put these pieces together. He's married to a psychologist. He's a nurse in a psychiatric hospital with a daughter to the age of Michella. I mean,
Right.
Was he linked to any other criminal activities, other murders?
Well, originally, the police thought that he was also responsible for the Jennifer Bastian case, or thought it was the same killer with both. But DNA showed us that it was actually 2 different murderers. So as far as they know, he's not connected to any other crimes, at least not at this point.
So, everyone, what I find so fascinating is that Cece's not a doctor. You probably think she is from listening to her. She's not a doctor, she's not even a scientist, but you've done remarkable and very successful detective work, which is great for all of us, because we could all do what you're doing. How'd you get involved in the first place?
You know, I'm self-taught. I was a genetic genealogy hobbyist. I just love using DNA to help people with their family trees. And I created and refined some techniques to help people find their biological families. And it just turns out that set of techniques is directly applicable to law enforcement cases as well. And it's also really fulfilling to be able to put those pieces together. If you like puzzles, you would love this.
You don't need professional training. It's just about being smart and doing understanding a little bit about how genealogy works. So fair warning to everybody out there, if you are a criminal who left any DNA at a crime scene, you might as well turn yourself in right now. I want to thank all of you out there right now who use those at-home DNA tests that are going to share that, because thanks to you, there's nowhere for killers to hide, which I think is a fantastic thing. And Cece, kudos to you.
Thank you.
Up next, Michella Welch's family has been searching for their daughter's killer for decades. They're actually here now, and they have no idea they're about to meet the woman responsible for cracking Michella's case. Stay with us. We're back revealing how cutting-edge DNA technology is now bringing cold case killers to justice. Michella Welch was murdered 32 years ago, and it wasn't until this past summer that her suspected killer was finally arrested. Her mother, Barbara, and her sister, Nicole, join me now. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I know many decades have gone by. Did you ever give up hope, ever think that there would ever be an arrest?
I don't think I gave up hope, but it became slimmer and slimmer, thinking that they would ever catch this man. It just didn't seem like a possibility, because they'd gone through, their stack of witnesses or persons of interest was mile high, and they'd been through it several times, and they just didn't know. They were clueless.
Nicole, you were 9 years old when your sister was killed, and
Yeah.
you were the last person to see Michella alive. Take me back to that day. What happened?
Well, we were in a park, and we had gone there early because we had piano lessons across the street, and we had gone on our bikes to the park, and it was probably a mile from our house.
You were on roller skates, weren't you?
Yeah, and I was on roller skates. And so we decided that when we got to the park, we were hungry. We had packed some lunches at home, forgot them. And so instead of us all going back, Michella was like, I'll just ride back real quick, grab the lunches, and come back. And during that time, my sister and I had to use the restroom. We're waiting at the park. They didn't, the parks aren't like they are today with the restroom right there. And so we walked down the street to find a restroom.
The first one wouldn't let you use it.
Right, it was like a gas station or something. And then when we were done, we came back to the park and we saw that the lunches were there, her bike was there, but she wasn't.
When you finally saw the police, what did they tell you?
Well, back at that time, they were kind of like, well, we can't do a missing persons report for about 24 hours. But I remember my mom being just very adamant. Like she loves books, she loves to read, she plays the violin, the piano, she's an artist. She's not at the mall, because they were like, well, did she go to the mall and hang out with her friends or something? And so finally they started searching for her.
Nicole, how does it feel to now place a face to Michella's suspected killer?
You know, for me, I have a strong faith in God, and to live my life angry at someone all the time, it's like then they have control over me. So it's a face.
I wasn't angry. I mean, I saw this man and I thought, this is the person that did that?
Yeah.
I just thought, he looks normal. He looks like just an old man.
Yeah.
How could he do that? How could someone do that?
And he was
you'd
living a normal life, which doesn't seem fair at all.
You think that someone like that would look heinous, you know, just really ugly and awful, but he looked normal. He looked pretty normal.
So before you came out, we shared a little bit of the science behind Michella's case and
Yes.
how it was finally cracked. So you're aware of all this. Who do you credit for cracking this case?
There was a team, a big team. The detectives stayed on it and stayed on it, never gave up hope. But then when the DNA testing came along, they went to Parabon. And
Who was leading the DNA testing?
Cece
Cece
Moore?
Yeah.
Cece
Cece Moore.
Yes. Yes, she's amazing. You know, that she spent hours and hours, even overtime, doing this, because she had the drive to get this done. And I think she knew she could do it.
Have you ever talked to her?
No, I haven't.
You ought to write her a note to thank her.
Yes, we would love to. Yes.
Yes, for sure.
Actually, maybe make it a little easier. Cece Moore, come on out, please. She's actually here, and she wanted to meet you.
You're amazing.
Barbara, come sit next to me over here. We'll put Cece in the corner there because I want you guys to say what you would have said to her if you had her before you earlier.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You're an amazing person. And the department that you work with is amazing to support you and to do what you've done, not only for us, but it's happening with other people as well.
Nicole?
Thank you.
Yeah. What a blessing. Wow. Yeah, that's just completely amazing that you have stayed with it, and that passion that you have to bring justice to so many people.
You probably didn't know us. I mean, you knew her, Michella. And that's the case you were working on, to meet the family that was.
Yeah.
So
I
Cece,
was
what
thinking about you all the time, actually.
Wow.
I knew who you were.
That's amazing.
I was thinking about you while I was working.
You know what I learned just now? I always assumed that Cece would meet up with the families, but you've never talked to a family of a case that she's cracked before.
No, I've never met one. I've had some emails, but this is the first time I've been able to meet someone in person. It means a lot to me.
Feels pretty good?
Yeah, I mean, my work has always been all about families, and
Sure.
that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So you're what matters to me.
Yeah.
Well, you're what matters to us.
I'll let you guys speak a little bit when we come back. How investigators plan to catch more cold case killers. This is important stuff. Stay with us. We're back with investigative genealogist Cece Moore. She's here helping us break down the science behind a new DNA technology that has everyone talking. It's called DNA phenotyping. It's got everyone in criminal justice engaged because it's solving a lot of these older crimes. And what a time to fight crime, because the future looks like this. Right, this is called phenotyping. It can turn the smallest piece of DNA evidence, even if it's really old, into a detailed snapshot of someone's face. Now, this face you're looking at right now was generated from DNA collected from Michella Welch's cold case back in 1986. And it gave investigators an idea of what the suspect would have looked like 32 years ago. So, Cece, how do they do this? How do they actually create a snapshot of someone's face based on DNA?
Well, our DNA is a blueprint for what we look like, and that means it's coded in our genes. So if you can identify which genes control which trait, then you can use that to predict what someone looks like. And so there's traits that control our eye color, our hair color, our shaped face, And so Parabon, the company I work with, their bioinformatic experts have reverse engineered these genetic traits from the DNA, and then they predict what someone looks like with usually a very high confidence.
And do these images replace the typical composite photos that I always see artists sketching in a police station?
Not exactly. There's room for both because those are from witnesses, people that have actually seen someone they think is the criminal. This is a genetic witness. And so this is a way of predicting what someone looks like that there was no witnesses there, just the DNA is the witness. And it's also an unbiased way of drawing that face.
But these snapshots you just talked about, they give investigators a place to start, but that was just the beginning. So how do they work hand in hand, these snapshots with the genealogy test, the genetic test that all of us are sending in to get ourselves evaluated now?
Well, at the same time they analyze the traits, they analyze the ancestry. And that's an important starting point for me.
So Cece and her team built an extensive family tree to find Gary Hartman in the Michella Welch case. Now, this is really cool. I want you all to see this firsthand to understand what detective work goes into this, but you'll understand this, you're smart. And once you figure this out, you'll appreciate why all of criminal justice is changing now. It's going to be harder and harder to hide when you've done something wrong. Okay, so let's say we've got two family trees. So we did the genetic testing, and just to highlight, number 1 and number 2 are two people, innocent people, who happen to have had their sputum tested.
Right.
And that's been uploaded to gedmatch.com.
That's right.
That's what you have.
Right. They decided to participate in this public website. And so when I got the list of matches, I'm looking for people that share significant amounts of DNA. And
this is the semen sample from Michella.
That's right, from the crime scene.
Okay.
So we had 2 significant matches in this case. And when I say significant, that's a second cousin or closer. And in this case, we knew that he would be carrying about 9% Native American DNA. And so when I was building this tree, I was looking for that. Yep. And I'm also looking for a connection to Washington. Okay. And I found
Washington State.
Yes, Washington State. So this great-grandparent actually had a mother of Native American ancestry. And then this one did too. Another mother of Native American ancestry. So they weren't directly related, but their descendants married. Okay. And when you add this plus this, you get about 9% Native American DNA.
Right. So somehow someone here had to marry someone here.
Right.
Did that happen?
Well, actually, in this case, it didn't, and it made it more complicated. I couldn't find the connection between these 2 trees until I hypothesized that there was what's called a misattributed paternity. Somebody in the tree was not the father. So
infidelity happened.
Something like that, yes.
It sounds like that to me, but anyway, okay.
So everyone in this tree was in Michigan. I couldn't find anyone coming to Washington, and that's what I needed. And I finally found that this person moved to Washington State. And so I now have that intersection I need that brings me to the correct genetic mix.
And you had 2 people?
Yes, 2 brothers. So we can't tell the difference between the 2 brothers because they have the same family tree.
Aha.
And so when I provided my conclusion to investigators, I have to give them both brothers, and then they have to take it from there.
So what do? Come on, let's talk about this.
Sure.
So you have these 2 brothers here, and either one could be theoretically the criminal. You have the DNA from the crime scene, so what do investigators do?
Well, investigators then have to build a case. I'm simply giving them a scientific tip. It's a lead generator. It's not evidence. They can't arrest based on what I tell them. So they go out and they collect abandoned DNA. You're allowed to do that in the United States. You know,
an old napkin.
Yes. In this case, it was an old napkin.
Oh, it was.
They followed Mr. Hartman to a restaurant, and after he discarded his napkin and left, they picked that up and tested it.
Isn't this amazing? I mean, it's a needle in a haystack, but I actually understand how you can find lots of needles in a haystack with this, because you've put this, modern science is changing forensics completely. Do you feel this evidence you just described to us right now, what the jury is going to see in this case, you think it's strong enough to stand up in court?
I'm not a legal expert, of course, but I've heard lots of legal experts say they think it is going to hold up.
I think you're an expert in everything at this point. This is what we should aspire to be. You taught yourself what you needed to know. I want a lot of amateur sleuths out there because they could do some of the things that you're doing and educate ourselves and get ourselves better. Barbara Nicole, I mean, I know you're witnessing this with me. So what do you want to say to anybody out there who's watching? First of all, speak for the families, the victims, about the pain of waiting without closure. Give them hope. And then I'd love to know your advice to America about how they can help.
It's tough. Never give up hope. Don't give up hope. But we want to take the takeaway be go get tested.
All right. Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate your honesty. And Cece, wonderful to spend time with you.
You too. Thanks.
We'll be right back. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out on new videos to live the good life.